Hi everyone, I am Sneha, co-founder and CEO DevCompass, and I am thrilled to have you guys back. We have reached video 3 of stage 2 of our course, and we've discussed a bunch of things already. From our first conversation with Claude to how does the agentic system look like, what are the key pointers to keep in mind when you are writing tool descriptions, and how to avoid breaking agents, how to write the right error message, everything. And in this video, we're going to talk about why you cannot prompt your way to guaranteed compliance with Claude. I know. Till the previous videos, we've been like, hey, if you write the correct tool descriptions, you're going to get amazing results. But this video is going to talk about something very different yet relatable. So I hope you guys have been following along, and if you have not watched the previous videos, please head over to previous videos for context. For the ones who do not know what I'm talking about, please head over to devcompass.ai and you will get all the information about our Claude certificate course. Let's get started. So let me describe a failure I've seen in production systems more than once. A developer builds a refund tool. They add a rule to the system prompt. Never process a refund above $500 without human approval. They test it 10 times. It works every time. They ship it. 3 weeks later, a customer sends a long, complicated message with the refund amount buried halfway through. Claude processes a $600 refund automatically without any approval. The prompt instruction was there very clearly, and we would expect that it should work. Claude just didn't follow it in that specific case. Why? Because prompt instructions are probabilistic, and for business rules that carry real consequences, because probabilistic isn't good enough. Before I explain what's wrong with relying on prompts for compliance, I want to be clear about what prompts are genuinely good for, because I'm not saying prompts are useless. They're the base of how we interact with all of these LLMs, but they are not. Look at the left column on the screen. Tone and style. Telling Claude to be professional and empathetic. Focus is telling Claude to stay on support topics and not go off on tangents. Asking Claude to use bullet points for multi-step answers, that is a format. Persona. Telling Claude's its support agent named Alex. These are all real useful things to put in a system prompt, and they work well. Now look at the right column. Why imperfect compliance is fine for all of these. If Claude uses a slightly less formal tone than you specify, the conversation still works. If Claude gives one slightly off-topic response, you recover. If Claude formats something wrong occasionally, it is annoying but not catastrophic. Notice the tilt symbols, not check marks, not crosshairs, tilts. Approximately correct. You can still work your way around it, so close enough. These things have no binary consequences, no money moves, no data changes, no accounts get access that shouldn't be. That's the dividing line. The bottom of the card says it plainly. None of these have binary consequences. That's what makes prompt instructions acceptable for shaping these behaviors. When something does have binary consequences, when it either happens or it doesn't, and the difference matters, prompts are the wrong tool. Now let's see how. Let me change the slides. Okay, let's see. So left card is about prompt instructions, probabilistic. Claude will usually follow it, in most cases in standard phrasing under normal load. The percentage bar shows roughly 95 to 99% compliance. That sounds good until you read the line underneath. That remaining 1 to 5% is where money moves. That's where the $600 refund scenario goes through. That's where the wrong account gets accessed. That crack icon in the corner of the left card is super intentional. The compliance looks solid from a distance, but it has a fracture in it. And we have tried to kind of convey everything through text as well as visuals. If you look at the right card, programmatic enforcement, it is very deterministic. Your code runs before the tool executes, and we have talked about this before. The check happens every single time unconditionally. Look at that key phrase. Claude's phrasing is irrelevant. That's what makes this powerful. It doesn't matter how the user phrases the request. It doesn't matter if the refund amount is in first sentence or buried in the middle of the paragraph. Your code checks the amount every time. The result is 100% compliance, no edge casing, no phrasing exceptions. The bottom of this slide kind of states the rule very plainly. For business rules with binary consequences, always use code, not prompts. Code is what is going to save you. So now let me show you exactly what and why programmatic enforcement looks like in the context of our agent that we're going to talk about. So look at the flow diagram on the screen. At the top, Claude outputs a tool use for process refund. We've already talked about tool use and how that entire system works. Please head over to the previous videos to watch that. That call arrives at your code. Now look at the second step. That gate box with that amber border that we have put in the presentation, that thick amber border is the visual convention we will be using throughout this course to mean that this is your code running. This is not Claude. This is no conversation with Claude. We're talking code. So this is the enforcement layer. Inside that gate, your code checks two things. Has get customer already returned a verified customer ID in this session? And is the refund amount at or below $500? Both of those are facts your code already knows. Your code maintains session state. It knows what has run and what hasn't. Claude doesn't control this check. Claude's output, the tool use call, is the input to this check and not an override of it. If either of this condition fails, no verified customer or amount over 500, the left path will trigger. Your code returns a structured error, where we will again get back to how that structured error should look like. There is a category which says prerequisite not met. Retriable is set to false. Message is verify customer identity first. And critically, the tool never runs. Process refund does not execute. The result just goes straight back to Claude as an error response. If both these conditions pass, verified customer and amount within limit, the right path will trigger. Process refund will execute and the result will return to Claude. So Claude never really touches this logic. It runs in your code every time unconditionally. That is what is making it deterministic and not probabilistic. By, if you would have written it in the prompt, it would have been very probabilistic in that case. Now, I want to address something directly before it comes up every time I teach this. Someone always says, but I tested it and the prompt always worked. And the answer is yes. It probably did work in your testing scenarios. The failure mode for probabilistic compliance is not that it breaks obviously during testing. It's that it breaks in specific edge cases under production conditions. And all of us are aware with this. If you are a developer who has been building production level softwares, then you know there are a lot of edge cases, and no matter how many test cases you have written, certain scenarios might just not be covered. So if you look at the scatter plot on screen, the x-axis is scenario complexity, how unusual or complicated the user message is. The y-axis is context length. How far into a long conversation are you? The large cluster of dots in the bottom left, those are your test cases. Short conversations, standard phrasing, scenarios you anticipated. That is the 99%. And in those scenarios, everything will work fine. Now look at the small cluster in the top right. Those are the edge cases. Unusual phrasing that Claude doesn't encounter in testing. Long conversation where the system prompt is buried under many turns of history and We did address this as lost in the middle problem. Novel user intent that doesn't match the scenarios that you actually wrote test cases for. Those are the 1%. And here's the asymmetry that matters. That 1% is not even evenly distributed across your test coverage. It clusters exactly in high complexity, long context scenarios you didn't really write tests for. Because those are precisely the scenarios that are hard to anticipate and hard to reproduce. So the $600 refund didn't happen during testing because the tester used a very short, clear message with the amount right at the start in the prompt. The failure happened in production with a real customer who wrote a paragraph of context before mentioning the amount. That's the edge case. That's where your prompt instruction failed. So we have to keep this in mind. So how do you decide what goes in a prompt and what goes in the code? Look at that decision table on screen. 4 rows, and each row is one dimension of the decision. Is the failure recoverable? If Claude follows the instruction imperfectly and something goes wrong, can you recover from it? If yes, prompt is fine. If no, use code. Second, are you shaping tone or format, or are you enforcing a business rule? Shaping is for prompts, enforcing is for code. These are two very different categories and they need different mechanism. Third, is approximately correct acceptable? Like we saw earlier, or is this binary, either compliant or it isn't? If binary, then use code. Fourth, and this is the most important one and I really want you to remember it, is Claude's judgment the feature or is Claude's judgment the risk? Sometimes you want Claude to exercise judgment. That's why you're using an AI. But sometimes for specific decisions, specific boundaries, specific thresholds, Claude's judgment is exactly what you're trying to remove from the equation. When Claude's judgment is a risk, you have to use code to take that decision away from Claude entirely so that it doesn't get into its guessing era. Run any rule you're thinking about through these 4 rows. If it hits the right column on any of them, please use code. So now we discussed about how prompt instructions are probabilistic, great for tone, format, focus. If it is doable, if the prompts are not really followed correctly, then you're fine. But if it's business rules, if it involves money, you need code reinforcement, and prerequisite checks need to be there in your code, and it has to check it every time before the tool executes. So you now understand the why, that why you cannot rely for compliance related issues. Probabilistic compliance isn't good enough for business rules. The next video is going to be about the how, specifically the mechanism. Claude's SDK gives you for doing this in a very clean, composable way. Instead of writing a separate prerequisite check every place, a sensitive tool might be called. Hooks let you intercept every tool call in one registered function and apply your rules consistently from there. So see you in the next video. Please do your assignments and go through the walkthroughs. I will see you in the next one. Thank you.